What's going on, people? So before I actually get the recording of the episode to play, I'd just like to give a little preface of who I am and why I'm here and what to expect from this podcast. So first of all, if you have not already or did not see my Facebook page or my YouTube channel videos, which I actually have not recorded yet as of recording this, check those out. They'll probably have updates way before I'll have updates on the podcast, and they'll also have video of me explaining things there just one-on-one. So it'll give you a better idea of everything that I'm trying to do. So first of all, who am I? I'm a senior in college, and I'm just kind of trying to figure things out here. And the biggest thing that I realize is that as a senior, I only have 1 year left to kind of make anything that I really want to happen for at least the next couple of years. After this year, I have to either get a job, go to graduate school, or kind of just be a bum. So obviously that's a scary thought, and the biggest thing that I realized after having that thought is the fact that I only have a year to live on my own and live in a way that I get to dictate what I want to do. Luckily, I had the fortunate chance of being able to dorm and experience that lifestyle. And what I realized while I was here is that in college you do grow the most, and as cliche as it is, it's you change as a person. Especially if you dorm, you meet all these people, all these interesting characters from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different just everything, ideals and morals, and you all kind of mesh and learn from each other. So the idea over this podcast, the name of this podcast is Unmapped, was based on the idea of a couple of other podcasts and an idea that me and my college buddies had. So, first of all, what I realized is that all the other podcasts that I listen to, all the ones that are very popular nowadays, are the ones where it's just people who have already made it, who are accomplished, who are adults talking about things that they know, and I mean, their profession or things like that. The best example I could give is Joe Rogan's podcast, which is one of the biggest ones out there right now. Every single person on that podcast is so intellectual or so accomplished, or I mean, they've gone the full road of going from start to finish, and they're there now and they're established, and they've more or less figured out everything that they wanted to do. And for all those people, there was an age where they didn't know, and I mean, there were 20 something at that point, at one point at least, and they were lost just like every other 20-year-old. So the idea behind Unmapped is talking to those people. And as corny as this is going to sound, it's talking to the future today. It's talking about the people who are going to be, who haven't made it yet, who haven't figured it out yet, who are just, kind of still molding into the person that they will one day be. And on this podcast, what I'm trying to do is get all those teens or those 20-somethings to come on, give their background, give their story, give their ideals, what they want to do, what they may do, what they have done, and kind of just give a general idea of what all the other 20-somethings are doing out there, because I strongly believe that this platform and this podcast will be able to help those who are lost by finding the other people who are around the same age group who maybe have the same problems or the same issues, and maybe they'll find an answer by doing so. I know so far I've probably sounded extremely monotone, but just bear with me. This is my first time trying to get into the whole world of content creation. It's the first time I'm doing anything that has to do with recording or putting myself on video. And I just hope you guys see that I'm really trying to put myself out there. And it's something that's new to me. It's foreign to me. And I'm just trying to, learn as I go. And so now I'm going to just get into who will be on this podcast. So for the first episode, what I decided to do was choose literally the most interesting guy that I know. He's a 20-year-old, most interesting man in the world. His backstory is probably one that I'll never ever find in anyone else, and I have the privilege of calling him a very close friend of mine. Unfortunately, the recording for our talk was actually not the best quality, just because I hadn't figured out the proper settings for this mic, and I only figured them out after I had recorded them. So will only be the first episode that will not be the pinnacle of quality, but Nonetheless, you can hear everything that's going on, and it was great conversation. And just because this preface was kind of monotone, don't think that the podcast or the material will be boring or anything like that. The conversation was amazing, and it was a great talk lasting for about an hour with no issues at all. You'll get his entire backstory from 0 to 20 years old, where he started and where he is now. So without further ado, I'm going to let the recording play. Thank you for those who are listening to this first episode of many to come, and I hope you enjoy the conversation that we had. What's up, guys? This is episode 1 of Unmapped, and on today's episode we have the Mizungo.
What's up?
Hey. Dude, glad you can make it here.
I know. I'm really happy to be here.
It's been so long since we've actually been able to... I actually have a setup now, and there's actually, a possibility of this production actually happening, and I'm so excited. And I'm kind of nervous. This is the first episode, but, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. We've been talking about this for months. That's pretty awesome. That's all coming together. We have the gear, and we have the right setting, and we can actually do this, which is really cool.
Dude, the first time I remember I tried using my phone. That sucked so bad.
That was a good trial run. We had the phone and we were able to try it out, see how it worked. But
I mean, I learned from it, so no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
The one thing that I did establish the most from that attempt on trying to use it on my phone, I realized that trying to use video for this was unlikely and would make it way more difficult than need be.
Right. Yeah.
And on top of that, I think using a phone, I don't think it would have worked just because of the fact that what I'm trying to do with this podcast, the anonymous factor in it, I think that is one of the most important things that distinguishes this podcast to other podcasts out there right now.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't prevent anyone from speaking their mind or saying exactly what they want to say, with the fear of hurting their rep or anything of that sort,
Right.
That anonymity is a really cool feature of this, which I really like.
I mean, the biggest thing on top of that is the fact that it was really awkward being on camera. I don't know how. If you ever watch Joe Rogan's podcast on YouTube, you can see how they are not fazed at all by the fact that there are multiple cameras in the room, always looking at their faces, and it's just so fluent. Yeah. But it's really, really weird to put yourself on camera if you're not used to it.
Exactly. What do I do with my hands?
No, that is the biggest thing, because I've been trying to record my first YouTube video, and I spent collectively probably 4 to 5 hours trying to figure out just what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much.
And when you're on video, you also have to kind of present yourself in a good way. You could do this podcast butt-ass naked if you wanted to.
This is true.
I mean, not that you'd want to.
Disclaimer, none of us are butt-ass naked.
Yes, we are fully clothed.
Fully clothed. That's not how we do it here. So let's get into explaining your name. So the Mizungo. So I'm assuming not many people know who that is unless they're from Africa or South Africa. So I just want you to explain what that is, because actually that name took us 2 minutes to figure it out, but I think probably is the most accurate name to give you a nickname and also kind of get your story out and get it started.
Yeah. Mizungo is a Kenyan and kind of a African term for a white African, if you would. These essentially white people that live and were born in Africa. So, yeah, that's me. I'm a walking irony. I'm a white African kid who dresses like an old man.
I mean, I think that changed a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with dressing like an old man. I think it's just professional attire.
No, I love it.
But I want to go more into just your background.
Yeah.
So the reason why I wanted you as the first episode was because of the fact that this podcast has to do with people who are young, who are trying to make it, who haven't made it yet, but nonetheless they have interesting stories, interesting backgrounds, and being in college, you meet the most interesting people just because they're from all different backgrounds. So I want to go from, not every little detail, but I want to go from kind of where you started to where you ended up and how you got from point A to point B. And obviously it wasn't a straight path for you. It was all over the place.
No, it's kind of all over. I'll give you the short story of it. I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, in 1996. Spent about a year there. Prior to me being born in Johannesburg, my older brother Keenan was born in Cape Town. And then we moved to Hong Kong in 97, right before it gained its independence from Britain. And my little brother Tristan was born there. I lived there for about 6 years.
In Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, yeah.
Okay. Wait, so your background? I thought your background in South Africa was longer than that. So you don't obviously remember anything from South Africa.
Not from that period. No, I
Right.
went back to visit many times to see my grandma and some family. But in terms of that small period of my
You were there
life,
for a year. I mean, no one remembers.
well, like the thing about Johannesburg, it's like probably up in the top 5 most dangerous cities on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
They were like number 2 for murder rates and number 4 for rapes.
That is
So
number 4 for rapes.
Yeah.
No,
So
for
if you
rapes,
go
that's
late at night
horrible.
in Johannesburg, and you are a white boy or white girl,
Getting raped.
yeah,
Is that what happens
it's pretty
there?
accurate.
So is there like a curfew there, or is it just kind of the purge,
man.
just free for all?
It's pretty much a free for all there.
That's
Yeah,
outrageous.
it's really bad. But yeah, so after that, my dad said, I'm not gonna raise my kids in this.
So wait, so what originally led to your parents and your grandparents being in South Africa?
My great grandfather was a medic during World War II,
Mm-hmm.
and after
Really?
yeah, he was, and he had to obviously take care of Nazis, right, which he was not a fan of at all, and was forced into, and he actually escaped with my grandmother. And the thing about Namibia, which is where my dad grew up, it used to be a German colony known as German Southwest Africa. So there's a huge German influence there still to this day. And essentially what it is, it's just a bunch of German people hanging out in the desert, listening to techno music, doing weird ass shit. Yeah, doing
As the
some really
Germans do.
weird stuff. But it's a really cool, interesting place. And so that's where my heritage is essentially from. Because before Namibia became Namibia, which is the country right up from South Africa, it was part of South Africa. So it went from German Southwest Africa to being owned by South Africa. So that South Africa was that much bigger country.
Okay.
And in the 70s, split in two, right? So
Split into one being Namibia,
Namibia and one being South Africa.
Okay.
My dad went to college in South Africa, and then I was born, and then we moved to Hong Kong.
So he went to. I'm sorry. This isn't even going to your story yet, but like trying to figure out the base of where your
Yeah,
parents
you need a little
started.
background.
You need a little
You
background
can't
of
just,
how
like,
they ended
plunge
up
right
there.
into it,
Yeah. So he chose to go to college in South Africa, or like what was the reason that led him to being there?
The colleges in Namibia weren't great.
Okay.
The University of Cape Town was a good school.
Mm-hmm.
You got a full ride, got paid to go there.
Mm-hmm.
So we just decided to go down and live there, and then met my biological mother, and I was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to sum that up. So your grandparents or your grandpa was there because of the fact that he was a medic in World War II, was stationed there, stayed there, and then, that's just origins of your family.
Yep.
Then father came along, went to college in Namibia, lived in Namibia, went to college in South Africa.
Yep.
And then that's when you come in.
Exactly.
Okay, and then you lived in South Africa for 1 year, promptly after your father moved to Hong Kong.
Yep.
Stayed in Hong Kong for 6 years.
Yep.
Okay, so now that's where we are. So you're 7 years old and you're in Hong Kong now.
Yep.
So let's keep going.
I remember I think we left like a week after my 7th birthday. I remember my 7th birthday vividly. It was on the beach. I got a submarine, like a remote control submarine, and I threw a spear at my older brother. I remember that vividly. And then like a few weeks later, we left to Switzerland, and one of the reasons was because back in 2002, 2003, Hong Kong underwent the SARS outbreak. Which is kind of like a contagious form of bronchitis. Okay. SARS stands for severe acute respiratory syndrome. So essentially, we'd have to wear masks at school, and we weren't allowed to touch the other kids.
Well, you called it SARS?
Yes.
Severe acute respiratory
Severe.
syndrome. Isn't that just cars?
Severe?
S. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
I'm retarded.
Severe acute respiratory syndrome. So that's another reason that prompted our move away from Hong Kong was because I had developed bronchitis and got really sick as a result. So the air wasn't great. So my dad decided to do the complete opposite and move to a place with some of the cleanest air on earth, right?
So Switzerland.
Naturally.
And
And there's business opportunities. It wasn't that he was just doing it willy nilly.
Right.
Yeah,
Your father's a smart man.
Yeah, he knew the right move to make, and we had the summer home out there for a while, so that's what we moved into. Because we would kind of travel back in between Hong Kong and Switzerland,
Right.
and then decided to move out to Switzerland full time.
So let's dive a little bit more into the Hong Kong part. Is there anything that you think stood out the most from your time in Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Like what distinguished that stay there, or the culture there, or the people there?
It's really cool. It's the thing about Hong Kong is not many people consider it China, and that it's so westernized and different.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially a bunch of expats and white people who are assimilating into Chinese culture, right? Hong Kong is the business capital of China.
Right.
So, and before June of 1997 was a British protectorate. So everyone drives on the left-hand side of the road. You get McDonald's, you get KFC, you get all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's essentially the two, like the east and the west, kind of converging in one spot, which is really interesting.
I remember recently. I don't know how recent this was, but when they introduced drive-through at in China.
Yeah.
I remember there was mass chaos. Just because no one knew how it worked.
What is this?
They were confused, and there's just how densely populated places in China are. It was a shit show. It was not going well.
It does not. I would not foresee that going well. I mean, I think they also released like McDonald's delivery years before we even had it. Yeah. Well, they had little scooters, right?
Okay.
Like McDonald's scooters, and they had the pouch in the back, and they zip around the city and deliver.
So just
McDonald's.
like Chinese delivery boys out here.
Pretty much, yeah.
What do you think prompted them to have delivery so much earlier than we did? Because we've had McDonald's way longer.
I think because they didn't have the drive-through. I think they were trying to
substitute it. Yeah. Trying to put in
because obviously because it was so much more congested and packed. I think that was their way of tapping into that market.
So just scooting around on a scooter.
Yep.
Trying to get people their McDonald's.
Zipping around, yeah. So
it's interesting how different McDonald's is in different countries. Yeah. Because every single McDonald's, depending on region, has certain types of food.
Yep.
I forgot who it was. Someone said they'd gone to Ireland and I forgot what it was, but there was something that just stood out.
Probably potatoes.
That makes sense.
Probably a lot of
when I went to Dubai, they had McDonald's, which was shocking because I assumed everything there would be halal. Or, they wouldn't have like McDonald's. I didn't think that would be a thing there. But we went there and everything was just halal. It was just a halal McDonald's.
Yep.
And shit you not, it was just so. I feel like the quality of the food at that airport at that McDonald's was so much better. It just felt better. I don't know why. But Dubai has that oil money, so they probably know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
Okay, so where are we at? You're 7, and now you're going from Hong Kong to Switzerland.
Yep.
Okay, so let's keep going there.
Yeah. We grew up in this tiny town in the Alps called Anzère, which is in the southern part, right above Italy, and it's a completely Caucasian Catholic Christian town, right? And there was not a single black person or Chinese person or Spanish person. Everybody was white, right? And if you weren't that particular way, you were kind of considered an outsider, right? Yeah. That's the thing with the Swiss.
What's the population though? So at the time, what do you think the population
of that town?
Yeah, probably pretty small.
Pretty small. I'd say a couple thousand.
Because was it the Heffler? He went to Iceland, and he was saying how when he went to Iceland, very similar in kind of ideals and the culture and just how things were there, was that it was such a small population of people that they were very kind of enclosed in their people. Like it was just them, their community, and any form of outsider was just wrong to them. Like it didn't feel like they belonged there.
It's kind of like a threat,
Yeah, basically.
Like even though they weren't outrightly viewing it as a threat, it was a kind of a subconscious threat, right? Yeah. That it was disturbing their normal way of life, right?
They're kind of intruding.
There 3 South African kids show up who can't speak a lick of French, like that. It was a weird experience. It took them a long time to warm up to us and kind of welcome us. But
so at this point, then, how many languages did you know? Or were you able to fluently speak or at least speak some form of Chinese when you were in Hong Kong?
I was in the beginning. Well, the thing with Hong Kong, obviously they had that huge British influence. So where I went to school, it was mainly taught in English.
Okay.
But we did have Mandarin and Cantonese classes. But by the time I left, it was too early in my education to really learn the language, right? And I was like, I'm gonna give up on this. I'm like, there's no way. I don't really need it anymore.
Chinese is an extremely complicated language.
It's ridiculous.
You know what's crazy is that there's also so many countries, and because historically speaking, like I have so much family in Bangladesh who have all gone to English premium school. Like they don't go to schools like in Bengali.
Yeah.
And there isn't any other there isn't any other language where there's school just for that language. Like you don't go to to the US and go to a school that's just Chinese. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
English is just the main language.
Yep.
It's just crazy.
It's applicable everywhere.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to use and teach it. But except for in this small town.
Yeah.
Everybody spoke French, and I didn't speak any of it, right? So we kind of had to learn as we went along.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the first few months were difficult because I couldn't really speak to people.
I mean, you were only 7 at the time too, so that's a difficult. Because I feel at that point in time you're already kind of past that easy stage of being able to pick up any language without issue.
Yeah.
Because my little sister, like, just in my household in general, you grew up in a bilingual household, and from the ages of 1 to 5 or 6, like you don't think about it when you're learning 2 languages. In my house, it would be speaking Bengali at home, English outside or from the TV, or when we're talking to people who aren't Bengali.
Right.
It wasn't something we thought about. We just did it. But by the time you're 6 or 7, I feel as though you start thinking about it before you do it.
Yeah.
So a language you can define it as a language.
Right.
Whereas beforehand, for my little sister at least,
Kind of
I feel
the way
as
of
though
life.
it's just a way of life or just noises to her.
Exactly.
She's just making the right noises at the right time, and it's working, and she's communicating.
There's a clear distinction between the different languages. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I know this language to begin with. This is very different and foreign. I have to learn this now, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like this is kind of ingrained into my family life, and automatically
you just kind of absorb it. You're just like a sponge.
Yeah, exactly.
The mind is just so permeable at that young age. My sister picks up everything. It's honestly astonishing.
Yeah.
So at the point of 1 through 7, what were your primary languages? You just spoke English at that time?
English, and my dad would teach me little parts of German here and there. Just because he didn't want to throw so much at me at one point. Right. He wanted me to know one language, get the gist of it,
like really know that language. So at least you know something instead of just half-ass of everything.
Yeah.
And then you can't really do anything with any of it.
Yeah. So jack of all trades, master of none kind of applies to languages really well.
Right.
You know? But he wanted me to master English first, and then
I mean, that makes sense.
When we moved to Switzerland, I was forced to learn this language because otherwise I wouldn't be able to learn or move on or meet friends or do anything really, because the language barrier is so hampering if you don't know the language, because you can't connect to other people, you can't read important signs, like you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do.
I mean, you're just lost.
Exactly, yeah. So
how long did it take you to learn French at this point?
I think fluently about a year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty. I mean, considering you were engulfed or
you're just
pushed into it.
You forced to just absorb and learn it every day, right? It's as if like you were taken and plunked in Germany, right? And nobody spoke English.
I have no other option. I have to do it.
You'd have to force it.
Because I tried learning, and I gave up pretty quickly. I tried learning a little bit of Japanese over the summer, and I told you about this.
Yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, if you don't have a reason to learn it, you really don't want to learn it. Or it takes a lot longer because you're not really just in it all the time. But the thing is, I used an app called Memrise, and the app was so good just because of the fact that every day you just spend 5 to 10 minutes going over all the little vowels, sayings, words. And by putting myself in that position of it's always there, I learned so much faster. Like I just memorized those things so much faster. Yeah. So that app is really good, and I gotta start using it again, honestly.
Duolingo is fantastic.
They're actually working on a lot.
I love that app.
They're working on a lot more languages too now. Yeah. When it originally came out, they only had I think 3 or 4 languages, but now I think it's open source, and they're making more and more lessons for more and more languages every single month.
It's a fantastic app. Yeah. I've used it to practice my French, to practice German. It's a really good app, yeah. But it was difficult. And when you're that young, like you're just constantly absorbing things, right? Yeah. So like think of your brain as a memory chip, right? Like a 16 or 32 gig memory chip. By the time you're an adult, you're hitting 30, 31 gigs, right? When you're a kid, you're in the 6 or 7 gigs range, right? So you have all that space in there to just kind of absorb the world around you, and that's why it was a lot easier for me to learn it. It was kind of just a fast track kind of program. So, that town is really interesting. The thing with the Swiss is, as we all know, they're really they're neutral pretty much in everything, right? And they kind of close their borders off.
And any war or anything like that.
Exactly. So both geographically and theoretically and in a mindset as well, they close themselves off to outsiders as well. So unless you're showing up to the hotels, to the restaurants, paying the absurd prices and paying for the hotels, they don't want you there, right?
Right.
They have the kind of a conservative mindset in that if it works, we're gonna keep it that way, right? Mm-hmm. They're kind of closed off to having new ideas. I don't really like making generalizations, but from my own experience,
I mean, it goes back to the anecdote I was saying about Iceland. I think it's just because of the fact that it's such a small community of people. No matter what a certain minority may want, the majority is not going to want people to come in. Again, they're going to be seeing it as a threat. On top of that, I'm assuming that most of the people in Switzerland are the older generation, at that time at least, who were at the time with so much stuff happening around in the world. Yeah. They just looked at everything and was like, nah, like we don't want any of that. We don't want a part of that.
Yeah, there's so much crazy things happening in the world. They're like, you know what, I'm just gonna stick my head in the sand, kind of thing. So they have a weird mindset, but there are still some very nice people that I met there that helped me out a lot. But it was funny, like my best friends weren't any of the Swiss; they're the foreign kids.
Right.
Like all us sense. Foreign kids will hang out. I had a friend from Spain. His name was Dylan. Really cool dude. His grandma liked to smoke sausage. And it was really good sausage. Chorizo. Like traditional Spanish chorizo. She would smoke it in the back of her house. It was just amazing, right? And then I had a Jamaican British friend named Elijah.
Jamaican British friend.
Yeah. His dad was full on Rasta, had these dreadlocks. And he had this Cockney British accent. It threw me off every time.
I wonder what his origin story is. Man, that must be interesting. That's random.
Yeah. It's so weird how people kind of get thrown into
everything. Just
when people ask, whenever I tell them about my backstory, and then I tell them I live in Oyster Bay or Long Island, they're like,
get there?
Why Long Island?
Well, I've talked to my mom about your background, and I didn't really go into too much detail, but I kind of just talked about, what your parents do, where you were born, where you've kind of been, just very very vague generalizations, and she just looked at me and went, like, how do you know this kid? You shouldn't know this kid. It doesn't make sense. Because, my background is so simple. My background is I was just born and raised in New York, and that's about it. First generation immigrant. My parents.
If I were to go back and do it all, I would.
Would you do it again?
I wouldn't do it again.
You wouldn't do it again?
I'm not really one to have one regret.
Because see, that's the thing that a lot of people want to do is I would rather this or this.
Yeah, you're right.
It's as soon as you make that one change, you could just change everything. Exactly. That entire timeline changes.
I think a huge part of who I am is because of that background. Yeah. But I have to acknowledge the fact that now that I'm starting to develop roots for the first time, living in the U.S. is the longest I've ever lived anywhere, right? And I'm starting to really develop roots somewhere, know the locals in the community and stuff. And every time, it was a really annoying thing. You'd finally start to make friends and really belong somewhere, and then plucked right up from that and put in a brand new environment. Hey, start over again, right? And I think that at this point, as a young child, I think it's really important for them to feel a sense of belonging and have people to rely on around them,
Right, that definitely changed your attitude, just who you are as a person, just because at that time, I feel like you were probably just lost, dazed and confused all the time.
Well,
but at this point, you definitely don't want that move to happen. You're old enough to live on your own, so at this point, it doesn't, I think your decisions are your decisions.
Oh, absolutely.
But, getting picked up and just put somewhere else, it especially to a kid who's just trying to figure things, who's just for the first time trying to figure things out, that has to fuck with you.
Yeah, it was tough, but it was pretty cool in Switzerland. I didn't have that many friends, but I developed a real awesome relationship with nature, Right. I wouldn't play video games at all, watch TV. I would leave in the morning, be outside all day, hanging out with the cows, climbing trees,
the cows.
Hiking, camping. I would do all that shit outside, and then come home and go to sleep. And it was my love of the outdoors and nature is very
comes from that. It probably also had a very large impact on your cardio capabilities, because even though you recently at least haven't been working out consistently, you're doing lots of cardio. You do cardio every once in a while, but your cardio is pretty damn good. versus like the average person.
Yeah, I think it's because of that.
Yeah, when I was outside as a kid, just, you know,
we were always moving around, running around, doing something. You know, we weren't stationary.
Right.
You know, always doing something. But yeah, like that, and then the transition to the U.S. was strange.
So you're at Switzerland at 7. So when was the move from Switzerland to the U.S.?
Right before my 13th birthday.
Before
12 going on 13 that summer.
6 years there?
Yeah,
okay.
right around 5-6 years there.
Okay.
What we would do is I would fly back and forth between the U.S. and Switzerland at that time. So I wasn't living and I had still visited, right? And I came to visit my dad. So I was flying unaccompanied minor, you know, a few times a year.
Wait. Backtrack a little bit. So you were just on the plane alone?
With my brothers, yeah.
Okay, with your brothers,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, your oldest brother was what at the time? He was still, what, maybe 15, 16?
Yeah.
That's still really young to just hop on a plane.
Well, no, we were before that. I think we started flying when I was around 9 or 10.
Alone?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that alone. I would get lost.
That's why they have those programs, unaccompanied minor programs, right?
What do you mean?
So unaccompanied minor is, I used to think when my dad used to say, Alex, you're flying unaccompanied minor, I thought he said underaccompanied minor as a minor who mines ore. I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this underaccompanied minor? But yeah, they have those programs set up that kids can go and fly and have somebody, you know, chaperone them along the way.
Kind of like helps you get.
We started to know the stewardesses by first name, right? Like,
I wonder if that had an impact on your ability to get women.
I don't know.
Probably did, honestly.
I don't know. Maybe.
From a young age, just talking to hot like airline like stewardesses. Just
Probably.
being like, hey, like, can you help me?
Yeah. Can you give me some applesauce? Can you put my milk in the microwave? But yeah, it was, and then eventually, like, you get used to it. Like, you learn how to do it. It's pretty self-explanatory how to travel. Like, you show up to your gate.
It's not
check in,
that difficult, but it's
go to
just...
the gate that's on your ticket and walk through, and then find your gate, sit down, get on the plane.
But it's not the getting from, you know, home to the airport to the flight. It's the fact that if something happens, like if the flight gets delayed, if there's an issue, it's like you're still a child. Like no matter how much experience you've had, you know, flying alone, like you wouldn't. It's a new situation that you wouldn't.
There are a lot of times as an adult that when a situation changes, when there's an unexpected occurrence, you know how to react to that.
Right.
You know how to change your stance. But when you're younger, you don't know how to adapt as well.
Yeah.
You know. But I think that a huge part of my life is being able to adapt. Right.
Right.
Every time we moved, like I had to adapt. Right.
That's the way of being a human.
Yeah. Exactly. Is adapting. So.
That will give you skills that most other people do not have, or you know, will not get.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that experience. As tough and annoying as it was, I'm very grateful for the experience and the skills I got from it as a result. But yeah,
I think going back to, because I'm thinking about this now, going back to, you know how people always will tell you that your story's crazy and it's cool.
Yeah.
I think they think of it as just traveling, like the travel aspect of it, like being in different parts of the world and being there, but not taking into account. I mean, you were in different parts of the world and stuff, but not taking into account that you were a child. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you were just.
To me, there really wasn't anything cool about it. It was just it's the same. It's the same as if it was here, same kind of feeling, but just in a different part of the world, right?
Because as a kid, you're not thinking of it as different parts of the world. You basically have an understanding of how to eat.
Exactly.
Like to you, you're just somewhere else now. Yeah. It's not like, oh, I'm in Switzerland. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the Alps and stuff. Or
I was like, oh, I'm in the fucking mountains.
Like, wait, why am I here? Why would you put me here?
Yeah, I'm confused. What do I do? Yeah, that's really what I was thinking.
Okay, so from 13 on, then you've been in the U.S.
In the U.S., yeah.
Okay, so it's been 7 years?
Yeah. That was probably one of the weirder transitions. Because, well, it wasn't weird. I think it was the easiest because I had a lot of practice. And
I mean, you already knew English, too.
Yeah,
I mean, the U.S. is
very helpful.
Well, where did you originally move in the U.S.?
Oyster Bay.
Oyster Bay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, look at that. So you're pretty close to New York. And I think probably one of the best places to be if you're someone who's coming from somewhere outside of the U.S. It's because how diverse it is, how many people there are.
Which is very different Very different.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Like the whole melting pot of New York was a very new thing to me.
It's insane,
and I loved it. I absolutely love it.
I don't know anyone personally that has been from that has come to the U.S. or has come to New York specifically and goes, this isn't crazy or this isn't cool. And I feel as though if you're from New York, you kind of undervalue it.
Yeah.
Because me being from New York, I always thought it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Like New York, I get it, it's a city. And then as soon as my parents moved up to Long Island, I realized like, damn, like I miss the city. Like there's so much going on there. And every time I go back to the city, you go, 5 minutes from from Flushing to Jackson Heights. You can walk that if you really wanted to, and you go straight from like a small China of just like Korean people, Chinese people. And literally everything there is oriented, to them. Yeah. All the stores are owned by them, and it's just like their areas, their community. And you walk 5 minutes, and then you got like the Indian community, and it's like they're just stationed there, just chilling there. One of the best ways to sum it up is I remember I was watching a Vice documentary, I think, about all these Chinese people who had moved to New York and gone to Chinatown and just stayed there. Like they didn't go anywhere else. Like they're like, this is good. This is okay with us.
Yeah, it's a small community within a larger foreign world, which is a really cool part of New York, which I really love. It was really interesting.
So the demographics of New York definitely helped that move. But it was definitely weird.
It was weird, a lot of times when you go to a foreign country, there's all this hype around it, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time it doesn't live up to that hype. Mm-hmm. The thing with the U.S. and New York specifically, it lived up to that hype and more, and blew it out of the water, right? Like a huge, when you're around 10 to 12 to 13, you kind of transition into a whole new, broader scope of absorbing things and experiencing things. You're a teenager now, right? So you're starting to see PG-13 movies, and you're starting to see all these different things. That coincided with me moving to the U.S., right? So I was flooded with all this new type of shit. Right. Like I had never had hot dog before, or a corn dog before.
That's so New York, having a hot dog.
Saw all these different movies, or ever had a peanut butter jelly sandwich. All this different type of shit was all thrown at me.
Peanut butter jelly sandwiches?
Nope.
Like, nowhere. None of the other places you've been.
Yeah, like my grandma she was on my mom's side. She was spreading this peanut butter. And I was alright. I've had peanut butter before. That's normal. Mm-hmm. And then she grabbed the other slice and she throws jelly. I'm like, oh, okay.
Like, and then she went, "What you doing, Grandma?"
Put them together. I'm like, what? And then she threw a glass of milk on the table, and I was forever in love.
Forever in love. Dude,
Never
PB&J and milk. It's the go-to.
It is.
It's the go-to.
It is. It's amazing.
It's a staple. Honestly, it's a staple of New York City kid public school lunches.
Yep.
I don't know if you've been to a school that gives you that lunch, but I remember I always went to public school, and every single day they had some stuff that was okay. Like everyone, like Fridays were pizza. Yeah. It was shitty pizza, but it was pizza.
Okay. Yeah.
It was like the little round ones. But they'd always have PB&J and milk. On every day, all the time, because no matter what,
it's so easy.
There's just somebody that's gonna be like,
so easy.
I'll just do that.
Feed a kid with 3 ingredients.
Yeah,
it's like it's so easy. But it was a really strange experience when especially for lunches for me. Mm-hmm. I didn't have lunch for the first week because the whole cafeteria thing was like completely foreign to me. In Switzerland, you'd have a break.
Okay.
So our days are much longer, right? So you'd start around 8 in the morning and you'd leave at 4 or 5 in the afternoon. But in between, you had an hour and a half, 2 hour break. So you get on the bus back home, have your lunch at
home,
then come back.
That's interesting.
And our bus ride was a half hour. Because where I went to school, where I grew up, my town was way up in the mountains on a ski resort, actually. Mm-hmm. And then our town was all the way down, half an hour way down, these long, windy roads down the side of the mountain, right? So we had to take a bus all the way down.
What made them implement that? That's a weird system to put in place.
The Swiss understood that, that part of the day and lunch and being able to be home for that was extremely important. You could take care of a lot of things. You get your homework done. You can be with your mom and dad. You can, it's a very important part of Swiss culture is eating with your family, right? Mm-hmm. And nowadays, lunch in America is never eaten with family most of the time. No, during the work hours. No. You're either at school or you're at work. Yeah. Right? And so they didn't want to take away from that. Mm-hmm. So we would have to take the bus back. And then
you were,
I showed up.
12-ish at the time, or somewhere around there that age. So did they have a bus system for you to go back home?
We took the public bus.
Public bus.
Yeah. It was... I've had some of the scariest experiences on that bus because you would have to. There was this big public bus, right? And especially in the middle of winter, you would have to ride that bus all the way down the side of a mountain, right? So the extremely steep slopes, all windy, right? Like you look down on the right, and like it's one of those feelings like if we fall down there, we're fucked.
Screwed. Like
right?
we're dead.
So he would have to throw chains on the tires, which would take like half an hour to an hour. So whenever we would show up in the middle of winter late, the teachers would kind of understand because they knew the bus driver would have to throw the chains on the tires, you know. So like going back to lunch, I would show up to the cafeteria and I'm like, I don't know the system, I don't know anyone here, and if I ask somebody, I'm gonna look like an idiot. So I just sat there, right?
You just didn't eat?
Yeah.
That's rough.
I didn't eat.
That's rough.
And I didn't use my locker. Because that whole, like, fucking locker thing where do you go past the zero once, twice? I don't fucking know. I had to have a teacher open it for me for a while. It was brutal, right? It was brutal. But, yeah, I figured it out, and I started getting the hang of it. And then one of my best friends in the world, Josh, he was, like, one of the first dudes that, like, walked up to me and was like, hey, what's up? I know you're new here. I'm Josh, right?
Interesting. That's how you met him.
Yeah.
So was this when you were like 13, 14 years old?
Yeah, I think I was like right before my 13th birthday. Yeah.
I mean, that has a huge impact on how you think about a person because that shows just how great of a guy he is.
Yeah, like you're kind of taking a leap of faith.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know this kid. I don't know what kind of rep he has. I don't know I'm not sure that if I hang out with him, if my rep will be damaged. I don't know this guy at all. You know, from my left ass cheek, but I'm gonna take a leap of faith and introduce myself and welcome him, right? Which is really cool.
Everyone at that age, like in middle school, they're just little demons. You do anything that's different, or you do something and you go to talk to this. Like they was so cliquey. Like the definition of being cliquey was in middle school. Everyone had their little groups. They would talk shit about all the other little groups.
It was brutal.
It was just not. I remember how just cunty people were at that time. It was just the worst.
They destroyed me. It was brutal because I'm short now.
Yeah.
I was very short back in that day, right? And I love the color green, right? So I wear green a lot. So then the 8th grade girls started talking, right? Is Alex a leprechaun? I don't know. I think we should make that a nickname for him because that is really nice. It's not mean at all.
Oh, you call it leprechaun.
So all the girls would call me leprechaun, which is fine. You know, I'm over it now. But back in 8th grade, obviously you're so self-conscious, right? Especially because you move to a new country. Yeah. Like you move to a new place, you want everybody to like you and feel like you belong, and then they're just calling you leprechaun. You're like, all right, that didn't work out.
This isn't going well.
This isn't going well. But yeah, it was fine. I mean, I met some really, really good friends, you know. It was different. You know how I said in Switzerland how us foreign kids kind of only hung out?
No,
this is one of those that broke that narrative where I was starting to hang out with kids
from the U.S.
From the U.S. and they were starting to welcome you.
That's like the perfect example of what the U.S. is right there.
Yep.
Okay, so finally, this is most of the podcast done. We got through your entire little history there. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the airline stewardess thing and talk about your history with chicks out here because that's your fun fact. So because you were in so many different places, like how when did you first try to interact with a chick, like with a girl, and
her name was Jessica.
Her name was like from Rick and Morty. Jessica.
Her name was Jessica. She was this. She was actually an American girl in Hong Kong, right? So her parents were American.
Okay.
Very kind of similar to like my parents' kind of background. Wall Street brokers, right? Wall Street stockbrokers went from New York to Hong Kong, right? To open a business, right? So they took their kid with them. And she kind of started molding my perception of America from a very young age, right?
Like so she had lived in America and then went to Hong Kong.
So like meeting her kind of started to make me think about America, right? Like my first
dreams of just she put me images of just like
so she had that American accent. She had like that somewhat dirty blonde hair. You know, I was hooked. Yeah, she was really cool. Well, she seemed really cool. She ended up being a complete bitch. But nonetheless, she did kind of she started molding my perception of the U.S. You know.
That's cool. That's cool because not only was she your first interaction with a girl, she also kind of was your gateway to the Americas. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but I don't know. The thing with the stewardesses, they thought like for some reason stewardesses love babies and like little kids. So like
that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, those stewardesses, they molded you to be the man you want.
I think so. Yeah. Yep. They definitely show a lot of love. They're nice stewardesses. Very nice, yeah.
This is back in the day when they were the hot ones. I feel like they're just the same stewardesses from back then today. They just been there the entire time.
Yeah, that was a really cool part of my life. I think what we would do is, those meals they give you on the plane, those airplane meals, those overnight ones. With the kids, they would always give like this little watch, right? This little digital watch, the shittiest digital watch you'd ever.
Yeah, but you're as a little kid, you're like,
what I would do is I'd
something.
collect them, I'd hoard them, and then I'd sell them at school, right? And I'd make huge profits.
Businessman mentality.
It was great. I was selling them for $3-4 a pop, right?
So how many did you have?
I had like
you were able to
20.
sell as many? How'd you get 20? You
I had 20.
So you were just like
hoarding
stealing them when you were on
Well,
the
like
plane,
I would steal them from the other people too.
Oh, okay.
Like they didn't want them, and
you're
so
like, I got it.
and the stewardesses would also give me like they'd go and like find the extra ones and then just bring it to us because they knew that like I loved them, right?
Okay.
So then I'd sell them to my friends, and I like made like $80, right? To like a small kid, that's a lot of fucking money.
That's breaking the bank right there.
It was great.
If you had $5 back then, you'd be like, "Oh, Leon balling."
Yep.
You guys have $5.
And then what we did was in Hong Kong, there's this huge market for airsoft guns, huge, massive. So we went to Hong Kong,
airsoft guns.
used that. I don't know. I don't know.
Just
really
just
shittily made like airsoft guns, right? So we bought a fucking arsenal of like airsoft guns, right? Like we used that exchange rate to our advantage, right?
What was the exchange rate at that time?
I think it was like 1 to 6 or something like that. I don't remember. It wasn't that bad, but like it was still good. And then we bring an extra suitcase, and I filled my entire suitcase with all these guns. I don't know how I got through security.
It was probably before 9/11.
I think right
Probably
before 9/11.
They probably didn't. It wasn't as big of a deal with stuff like that back then.
But like it wasn't really between the U.S. and Switzerland. It was between Hong Kong and Switzerland, right? So that wasn't really affected.
Okay.
So we bring all these guns back, and then all the foreign kids had the airsoft guns. Nobody would fuck with us, right? And so then I would continue this watch thing, you know, sell my watches to my friends. I later on continued another form of this business, which got me in a lot of trouble.
The Vegas, the stripper cards,
Vegas stripper cards.
The dollar is still, it's 6.53 Chinese yuan. So it's still consistently the same.
Look at Hong Kong dollar.
What's the difference between a Chinese yuan versus a Hong Kong? Is there a difference?
There's.
What is the difference?
I don't.
It's just region? Hong Kong dollar? What is the Hong Kong dollar called? Yeah,
It's called the Hong Kong dollar.
Oh, it's really just it's called the Hong Kong. It's 7.83 to $1 US.
Okay, so it went up.
Okay, so it went up, yeah.
Yeah. So we had a little airsoft gun racket going on.
So what did you do with the airsoft guns?
We just shoot animals. We just shoot cows, and the cow would go. And that was it.
Wait, so did you get them back? Did you go to the cow and then pick the bullets back up?
No, you just bought a bunch of little pellets.
Oh, you had BB guns? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
BBs.
Well, that's fucked up. You should stop there shooting cows with BB guns.
It didn't hurt that much.
You don't know that.
The cows fuck each other up all day with their horns.
That's true.
But I'm starting to make myself look like this this like international airsoft arms smuggler. But yeah, it was.
I think the funnier story is definitely the stripper card one though.
Yeah, the stripper.
Just the fact that there was so much demand from people to buy it.
It was crazy.
It was
like we went to
Super
Vegas, and I'm not sure if you know anything about Vegas, but the gentlemen's clubs and the strip clubs are heavily advertised there. Really heavily. So they have these dudes out on the street holding these cards with like naked women essentially on them with the contact information on the strip club and the address and how to get there and shit. Right. And they would slap them and then like try and give them out as much as possible. So these things were all over the floor.
They were just picking, like, just getting them and dropping them.
They just, they pick, like, you know how, like, you get a flyer from somebody and you're just like, I don't want this flyer, I'm just kind of fucking...
The other day, funny story, is the other day, this guy, he walked up to me and I was just sitting on a bench. He walks up to me and he doesn't try to convince me to take the card. He just goes, "Do you want a piece of paper?" And I looked at him and I didn't want to say no. I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? And that's how he got me to take his flyer.
There you go.
That was a pretty good, that was a pretty efficient way to get it done.
Piece of paper?
I was like, I guess, why not?
Yeah. But, so, like, my parents would walk ahead, right? And we went on a trip with them for my older brother's 16th birthday. And my little brother and I, Tristan, were, like, collecting these left and right, picking them up, right? because we were horny little prepubescent fucks. So I took them all back to school, and I started showing my friends in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was at the cafeteria, right? So I was well acquainted with the cafeteria now. Had my little cafeteria group. You know, everyone has their own little table. Everybody sits in the same fucking table every year.
All the
so
time.
I had my little group, and then so they were really intrigued by this, by these cards.
Mm-hmm.
So they started texting their friends, "Yo, Alex Black, he's got some naked lady cards.
You got some...
Come through, right?" So all these,
got some naked
so
lady
these
cards.
guys would come through, right? And then I would sell these cards for very small amounts of money, mainly just to buy food from the cafeteria, right? Like
It works.
They had really good French fries. I really wanted French fries. So. So I started.
Wait, really
those.
quick. Do you think there's a distinction between French fries? Oh no, you weren't in France, in Switzerland, but that doesn't really. Never mind. I keep going.
I mean, they're different.
Just different. Well, like, what do you think the distinction is?
I think the ones in the French fries that we know them as
Mm-hmm.
are, especially in like the fast food places.
Yeah.
They're much smaller and thinner.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the ones in France are
Wider. And
like they're actually like hand cut and
like
they're larger.
the crinkled ones.
they're larger, thicker.
They got girth.
Yeah, they got the girth. You know? Yeah. So then what happened was the principal found out, and she was this great lady called Ms. Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was like this, like, I don't need no man kind of
Snaps.
like attitude kind of lady, you know. She was really great, and she sat me down in her office. She said, "Alex, give me the card. Number one.
First
Number
of
two,
all.
your mom is being called, either by you or
no.
me. You decide." So I
no.
pick up the phone and I call my mom, like, "So, Mom."
So how old were you here? You're like,
I think I was 14 at the time. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
It was weird.
That's a weird conversation to have.
Yeah.
I was just handing out naked lady cards. I got in trouble for it.
Yeah, my dad yelled at me for it first, but he secretly
I feel like he didn't
loved
give
it.
a shit.
He secretly loved it because he saw that, like, he's like, "Oh, this kid's taking advantage of a high in demand commodity. I like it." You know? Especially naked women. My dad secretly, not that much secretly, is a huge perv. I think you experienced that when you met him, right?
The first time I met your dad, I remember sitting down by like the fireplace, and we're talking about my history for a little bit, and then we started talking about how you guys were gonna go to Disney for the half marathon.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "I think I'm gonna dress up as Aladdin and then just go up to women and say rub my belly," and I was like, "I just met you." Like, I was like, I don't know what to say. You're my friend's dad, and I have no clue what to tell you about this right now.
You don't know how to react. He catches people off guard because he comes off as this very like well poised, very well put together dude.
Yeah, but then he says something like that.
You have a couple glasses of wine with him, and he just throws out all the raunchiness. It all comes out, and it's great. My mom hates it, but he really loves it. Yeah. So yeah, that was my naked lady trading card story.
Business. It's good business.
Great business.
I did that. I did something similar, not the same, but honestly, what I sold was way dumb. I don't know why people wanted it. So they had these like, they have them a lot now. You know those little like little ball, the things that grow in water. So it's basically those. It's the same material, but they're just like little.
Like those things that expand.
Yeah. They're just like little like balls.
Right.
And you put them in water, and if you leave them, they'd grow like probably the size of like a handball. Or no, a little less than that. Like very large and marbles.
Okay.
But they were soft, so it was like fun to just chuck them at people.
Right.
And I got a lot from Bangladesh, and I think I'd spent the equivalent of maybe like $2 to $3 to get them.
Right.
But I gotten a couple dozen packets of them, and I was just giving them for like $1 to people.
Right.
So I think I made like $40-50.
That's pretty nice.
But then eventually people were like, what's the point of this? I'm like, I don't know, you guys are the ones that bought it. This
Like
isn't on me.
Said no refund policy.
Yeah.
That's funny. Huh.
I feel like everyone has those little businesses
Yeah.
when they're at that age. Or at least the quote unquote entrepreneur types.
Yep.
Because I remember one of my friends at the time, he was actually, this was in middle school, I think 7th grade. He actually had a very efficient like chocolate, like he would just be selling chocolate bars, yeah. And he was like a pretty good, like he was probably making like $30-40 a day just selling chocolate bars.
What?
Yeah, like him and his parents would go out.
They would make them?
They would help. No, they wouldn't make it. He bought like just Hershey's chocolate bars.
Okay.
Or Snickers or something.
Right.
Like every day would be something different.
Right.
And he'd buy like the bulk packages where it comes out to maybe 30-40 cents, like a chocolate bar. Like it was really cheap.
Right.
And he would just sell them for $1, which isn't like a bad, like $1 for a chocolate bar is like a regular price. That's probably how much it would be, or it would be more in the vending machine. And every single day he would sell out an entire box of 20 to 40.
So
chocolate bars.
I'm assuming your school didn't really have vending machines.
We did, but they didn't have any good snacks. Like they had
Okay.
like Welch's fruit snacks for 75 cents. And everyone's like, why would I pay 75 cents for this?
That's crazy. So yeah, that's smart. You know, there's, scarcity is a great thing to use.
And the best thing on top of that is the fact that he was selling them to the teachers too.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it wasn't just like he was selling them to students. Like the teachers knew that he was selling them, and they were like, "Oh, like can I have 2 today?" And like no one got mad at him because it was just chocolate. It wasn't anything that anyone would get in trouble for.
He's selling happiness.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want chocolate? I mean, people go to chocolate.
So good.
It's so good. I want chocolate now.
I had Swiss chocolate when I was at Coco's house the other day, and it was so.
Yeah,
good.
they are very good.
It's what is it? I think the distinction is the ratio of milk.
Yeah.
Right. They have more milk and it was like more milk rich.
Right.
But it's just so much better.
It's good.
So much better.
It's really good. It's very creamy. Yeah, they're
now
really
I just want
good.
chocolate.
Yeah, after this podcast, I'm getting chocolate. Yeah. So where are we now?
You're in the U.S. It's
Present
13,
time.
yeah.
So
pretty far.
graduated. Well, like the thing, like after I moved here, I tried like every different type of sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd never seen baseball before. I had saw like some glimpses of football on TV. So I was like, all right, let me try these things, right? The first baseball that was thrown to me.
Football didn't work as a leprechaun at the time.
Well, we'll get to that. But, the first baseball that was thrown to me, I ate really square to the face. My buddy Josh threw it, and it was very painful. And then I actually ended up playing baseball that season, and I got on base once, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hit a ball all season, and I still didn't. The ball hit me. Hit me in the back.
So you just got walk?
Yep, I got walked. So that was my experience with baseball. But I
Wait,
tried
hit
it.
you in the back?
Yeah, because like
you just turned around. You turned around. Okay.
Yeah, and hit me boom right in the back.
Okay.
So that it did not work out well for me. Baseball wasn't the game for me.
So what was the second plan here? What would you go for?
I also played football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was really brutal. Right, I was like the smallest kid on the team. I was that foreign kid, right? So
weren't your uniforms also green? Because I'm pretty sure I saw a picture of you on the football team at your house.
No, they weren't green. There is a picture of me, I think right on Facebook if I pull it up, of my first week of football. Yeah,
I want to believe it was green. Because if it was green, this was in the U.S. though, right?
Yeah, this is
okay. Never mind. So it doesn't matter.
8th grade.
Because if it was like you joined the football team wearing a green uniform as you and those girls that made fun of you for being short and a leprechaun, they would have literally tore you a new asshole.
Yeah, absolutely. It would not have been fun. But I'm very glad that it wasn't. Here it is.
Oh, so it's yellow. Okay, it's yellow.
Yeah, so we were
gold.
Purple and gold. Yeah. So I was very small, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was constantly being kind of pushed around, which is it's football. It's part of it, right? So I'm not gonna like, oh, you pushed me around. No, it's football. That's is what it is. But a lot of people had told me to quit, including my coach. My coach said, Alex, this may not be the sport for you, right? And I ended up playing another season because I actually liked the sport. It was fun. I like the dynamics. I like the team play. I like the strategy. Because it's similar to soccer in a way, in that you have two.
It is.
You have two teams on a playing field trying to gain possession of a ball and bring it from one end to the other.
I think just the biggest difference is just like American football is just the American way. It's just like basketball. It's just really aggressive and just constant tactics and just back and forth, just going. Yep. Soccer is just slow. It's like
kind of. It's kind of like.
Just a little back and forth.
A little back and forth, yeah. But I ended up doing really well that my ninth grade season. That they kept me on, because I improved significantly. So I did enjoy football a lot, but the issue, I was just getting a lot of concussions, so I had to quit.
How many concussions did you get?
I got like 4.
Really?
Yeah. Got like 4.
And you only played for 2 seasons. And I'm assuming for the beginning of the first season, you weren't even on the field that often. Or
no.
Were you...
Well, like, I got like 2 of my concussions from practice alone, right?
Oh, my God.
Right. This kid called Xavier Mabina. Mm-hmm. He's this huge black dude, mm-hmm. right? I still joke to like I see him in CVS. I'm like, dude, mess me up, man, because he like fucking trucked through me in 8th grade, gave me one of my concussions, right? So we still talk about that to this day.
That's crazy because this is in high school, late middle school, early high school, and you're still getting concussed. Like that just goes to show the controversy behind concussions in football. Yeah, that's just a huge problem. I don't know what they're gonna do about that.
Yeah, they got to figure that out. But yeah, that was a weird sport, and then I ended up playing. I did basketball. I'm the shortest kid on the team, and hey, I tried basketball. I didn't have tryouts, but it was something I wanted to try. And I really enjoyed it, but like again, I was very short. So whatever layup I went for, it was just nope, it's not allowed. Give me that ball. So I enjoyed playing it. How
long did you play basketball for?
1 season.
1 season.
That was 9th grade. Okay. The annoying part was though, I got altitude sickness that year, and was taken out completely.
Were you in Colorado?
That's when I went to Colorado. Got altitude sickness. I lost 12 pounds in like a week. Okay. I looked like emaciated. It was really bad. Yeah. So that kind of took me out of the basketball scene.
Okay, so you went to baseball, football, basketball. Yep. So you played soccer, right?
Yeah. Well, soccer is huge. I played that in Hong Kong. I played that all throughout Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But did you join a team in high school?
I actually
like an actual
I actually didn't. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't. I've always wanted to, but then it was like I've played soccer my whole life. I want to try something new, right? So I was always trying new things. I feel like that's been a part of my identity for a long time.
It only makes sense.
Just always trying new things. So then I tried golf for a while, which I really loved. It's so white. Yeah. Well, I'm I'm definitely one of the whitest people.
No, obviously.
And I really enjoyed that game. That's a great game. Golf? I still play that to this day.
I've never played golf, so I don't even know. I have golfer's elbow in my right elbow, and I never play golf. Which
tight. How do you get that?
It's just it's like a tightness in like the ulnar side of your forearm. It's just from heavy lifting. Like it's probably happened because of deadlifting for me. Just because I went really heavy on deadlifts all last semester, which honestly was not worth it. I mean, I'm still pretty proud of my PR, but it still was not worth it. Dumb move, but that's a talk for a later podcast.
Yeah, that's all right. But yeah, so I really enjoyed golf, and then I tried track. Loved that. That was fun. Like running is shit, but it's still fun.
I mean, I think being on teams is such an important part of growing up in I'd say middle school, high school time. Yeah. And I've just missed out on that because my high school was one of those specialized high schools in New York, and it was pretty underfunded. Like we had one floor. It was all academic oriented. It was just we didn't have it. We had a handball team and a swimming team. Yeah. And I still don't know how to swim. And I played handball for a little bit, but I wasn't good as the Asians, so I didn't really get to do it. I didn't have the output to play any sports or do anything.
I don't necessarily think that kids should have to do team sports.
I think they should have the output too.
Yes, have the output too, but do something. Yeah. Don't go home and play video games.
Go out and do something. That's a problem today. I don't think that was a problem as much when we were kids. Because we did grow up on technology, but we grew with technology. Yeah. Whereas today's kids, like my brother's 13, he grew up on he grew up and technology was already given to him. Yeah. He already had it. Like my sister is another example. She is 4 and she knows how to use a phone better than my grandma, and it's like it's like easy for her to navigate through all of it. And she knows how to use it. She was born on it. Yeah. It wasn't like she was born, went through time without it, and then picked it up later on. It. Yeah. Like to us, it's separable. It's something that's we know it's like a part of us, but it's an extension. To them, it's not an extension. It's just them. It's just there already. It's not something that they can think of without of.
Exactly.
But it does suck not having technology.
But it also doesn't. There are times where my dad would or my mom would take my phone away for a week or something like that, and it was the best week of my life. I had nobody wanted anything from me. Right. I wasn't getting stupid emails. I wasn't getting stupid calls. I wasn't getting people and nobody knew where I was, which I love. I love not knowing knowing that people where I am.
Yeah, that's.
And I think in today's day and age, it's kind of scary how people don't catch up anymore. I think I was telling you this last time we spoke. since when have you sat down with somebody,
and
like a good friend,
caught up.
and caught up?
Yeah,
That doesn't happen anymore.
It doesn't
like,
happen anymore.
I already know. I saw it on Facebook. You don't need to tell me. So what is there to talk about now, right?
I think people lack that. They just assume they know enough. They don't really want to know more. Everything's already out there.
And the thing is, the thing that happens on social media, your life you portray on social media,
it's
is not your real life.
It's the best parts that you can do
Exactly.
just to show off.
Just
It's
to show off a little bit.
Giant, it's a showdown to see who's the biggest penis. Like, that's really all it is.
I was talking to Keenan about this the other day. I had this weird thought in the shower, right?
Shower
what
thoughts,
if
best thoughts?
Best thoughts. What if somebody else made your social media profile for you?
No, I mean professional. I mean people who are social media influencers or like the people who have
like
very large followings.
Right.
They're not controlling most of their media. Like someone else is usually managing.
But I'm saying somebody random.
Oh
like,
yeah, that'd be not good.
Like you'd automatically be you're given all these photos, all this content from somebody, and you're like, you get to choose what goes up on this person's profile, right?
There are probably people who are paying to have that done for them.
Okay.
I strongly because me personally, like I'm trying to do this thing with social media and be like a technical quote unquote social media influencer. Right. Trying to be someone that has kind of weight in society. And I have I'm always spending my time in not just looking through Instagram, but looking at what these influencers are doing.
Right.
And when I see what they're doing, it just seems like it doesn't seem like them. It doesn't seem like it's a real person, which is weird.
Yeah, like pre-constructed.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like
natural.
Fluid or natural. It just seems kind of, photoshopped.
Yeah.
That it's already made for them. It's not like authentic anymore.
People are just they're so accustomed now to kind of trying, like Snapchat and Instagram stories and stuff like that, trying to show the best parts of what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're so used to being like, oh, these are like, look at me, like, look, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, that they're forgetting to do things. Like they're forgetting to be them and kind of just live their way, not live a certain way, so that they can talk about living that certain way.
Exactly. Yeah, I think social media, in terms of the benefit it has for people, is now starting to reverse.
Yeah.
And that it's starting to take away.
Yeah.
Because now, like, people will literally live their lives for other people.
Yeah.
Right? For other people's benefit. Right? Like, I am eating this food so that I can have good content for my Instagram page, so that my Instagram followers can like this. Instead of, I'm going to eat this food because I want to eat this food. Right? So, and they don't live in the moment anymore. Right? Yeah. There's no, like, living in the present, to me, especially, is, like, for me, it's a huge deal to live in the moment and live in the present, because I feel like in today's day and age, so many kids and
You're
people
never in the present.
Want to be somewhere else while they're already here,
And you forget.
It's
I think this is a good way I can sum it up. Right. People are forgetting the being of a human being.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the best way I can sum it up. And on that note, it's been an hour, and it's the end of the first podcast. And honestly, that's a really good note to end it off, because that really helps me sum up how the whole idea of the podcast on this platform here, the whole anonymity of this podcast goes into people being able to be the real them and talk about what they're doing and where they're going. And it's the people who are at that age where they're trying to be someone and trying to figure out who they are. Because at this age, at around 20 years old, like, you don't know who you are. You really don't know. You don't know shit. You're trying to figure it out. You have no idea. And you're kind of going off of, people who've already made it, your parents, like everything around them, and you're just trying to be someone.
Yep.
So I think this will be a good podcast to help those people out.
It's nice to know that other people don't know shit either.
Definitely. I mean, yeah. So on that note, thank you for being here. I'm going to shake your hand even though I know you. Give it a little tap there, and it's podcast number 1. Wait, don't leave yet. So I just wanted to give a little outro before the end of this podcast. So there's no timeline for this podcast. Probably all the episodes are going to be about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes. And it's kind of just all over the place. It's a freelance podcast. There aren't any specific questions or any script to what's going to be happening on the show. And what I'm going to be trying to do is trying to get at least one episode out a week. Again, like I said, I only have a year left of college. And given the fact that I only have those many numbered amounts of weeks, I want to get in as many people as I can and try to reach out to the largest audience that I possibly can within the time that I have. So I was actually late in recording this show, and I wanted to record it the first Sunday that I started my first semester of senior year, but unfortunately I didn't get to record it and edit it and upload it until the second week. So what I'm going to be doing is rushing and getting the recording done for the second episode, which will be coming out on this Sunday on September 9th, I believe. Actually, no, I'm sorry, September 10th. And I will try to get the recording, editing, and get it uploaded by the night of the 10th. The guest on the second show will be someone who has been a close friend of mine also. He's been living with me for a while, and we'll call him Pooh Bear. And we'll meet him on the second episode. And you'll come to find out he's quite a character. So until then, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I hope you listen to the next one. Peace out.